I got enough information to share. So. Is he like the mentor of I've just come out and I've seen Simpson's face. I know it's
If we can get started with the meeting.
I think you needed it tonight.
First of all, I'd like to ask a returning special guest to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Returning to Cincinnati from Swaziland and Morocco.
Oh, yeah!
The director of the Beach Board.
Denise's little brother.
She reminds us.
That's right. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing for a moment? We lost a couple of special people over the past 2 months. Richard Lucan, the chair of the Green Township Democratic Party, passed away. We also lost the husband, Dr. Lou Schroeder, of one of our precinct executives in the 14th Ward. The other person I'd like you to keep in mind and keep his family in mind is Tom Lucan. Tom is not sure what the right word is for it, but Tom's in a retirement situation now and unlikely to come out of that. So please keep all of those families in mind for a moment of silence. Thank you. I also want to recognize 2 other visitors who are with us tonight. You can sit down.
Oh, I thought maybe we were
Who have returned to Cincinnati from a ways. And I think you will recognize both names. Victoria Zeit in the back. And moving into Cincinnati, the daughter of the former chair of the Adams County Democratic Party, the former director of Lieutenant Governor Lee Fisher's office, and the former press secretary for NASA, Lauren Worley. And Lauren, by the way, is moving into the city of Cincinnati. So if you've got good ideas either for a job for her or where she should live, there you go. Let her know. Let her know.
Make her a precinct executive.
We're working on that. We were going to do a treasurer's report next. Steve Newsom is coming, so I'm going to put that off until later in the agenda. And we'll get right to our little mini debate tonight over the drug pricing issue that you've all seen, because we've all seen the commercials that are running on both sides. We've got good Democrats on both sides of the issue. We thought it would be appropriate to let you hear from both sides of the issue tonight. David P. Little will speak for the affirmative side. Dale Butler from Columbus, and we've already talked about NASA and outer space. Dale used to be the press secretary to United States Senator John Glenn. So he's somebody else with connections way out there. What I'd like to do is ask the two of them, and we'll just flip a coin and decide who goes first. I do have a coin. Dale, you want to call it?
Yeah, sure. Heads.
It's Dale. David, you go first. 5 minutes apiece.
Well, I'm a baseball fan, and home team always goes last.
You're going first. Becky Myers is going to keep track of time. She will give you the finger with 1 minute left.
Oh, Becky! Which finger? Whoa!
And just to be clear, after both sides have the opportunity to speak, we'll have the opportunity to do question and answers for anyone. And if the body desires, you may consider an endorsement tonight on either side. You don't have to do an endorsement tonight. You could defer that to another. It's up to you.
I'm gonna wait till I start, right? Good evening. I'm delighted to be here this evening. I would like to recognize, as Tim did, Victoria, who is working on our campaign and is keeping all the trains running on time, and I much appreciate her efforts, and she's working statewide. I'm also delighted to welcome Dale to Northside, possibly Cincinnati's most diverse and eclectic neighborhood. I remember back when he hired me a long time ago as his deputy press secretary in John Glenn's Washington office. My mom was very proud. But given the cost of living in D.C., it was a promotion that I simply could not afford. But I still thank you for your confidence. But let's be clear. I'm proud to be a Democrat because we stand up for the little guy. We fight to take down bullies. We battle injustice. We battle corporate domination and greed. And I'm proud to say that I've worked for Democrats and progressive ideals and issues for decades, but I've never taken a nickel from pharmaceutical companies or been in the bed with the Chamber of Commerce. And Lord knows they've never been in the bed with us. Instead, they fought us every step. So I stand here in determined opposition to the deceptive campaign that will be amply exhibited here tonight. This proposal in question, the Ohio Drug Price Relief Act, is so simple and appealing that we believe Ohio should be able to negotiate the prices we pay for the drugs purchased by we taxpayers. And our National Democratic Party agrees. Just yesterday, we released a new Better Deal platform, which boldly calls for investigation of drug makers, and get this, allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. What a concept. This is what our national party stands for, and I hope you will show that you stand with them tonight. Think about it. We're the most over-medicated nation in the world. We're the only country that allows for drug advertising. We promote instant self-diagnosis from our couches. Restless leg syndrome, anyone? Perhaps that's you. And combined with rampant over-medicating, they have built some of the highest profit margins in the world. And we pay the highest prices in the world. Quadruple what our longtime allies in Europe do, 3 times as much as Canada, and 100 times more than some in the third world. Hepatitis C, for instance, $94,000 in the USA, $1,000 in Egypt, $900 in India, because we are captive to a system that disallows discussion, disallows compromise, and negotiation. These despicable practices provide a lot of money to buy aggressive marketing, favorable studies, very pliable institutions, smiling doctors, morally bankrupt organizations, and their very favorite target of all, politicians. When was the last time that we Democrats stood with Big Pharma and the Chamber of Commerce? And when did they ever stand up for us or any value we have ever held dear? Never. So why should we trust them now? They helped to bankroll SB 5. They helped found and lavishly fund ALEC. They daily fought against President Obama and every Democratic nominee and every health care reform in the past 40 years. So it's very strange that now they want to be our new best friend forever. I don't trust it. And to whom do they contribute? My old boss, Senator Brown, who along with Al Franken is fighting against drug company greed in the Senate? Certainly not. Josh Mandel is more their fiddle cut. At the Tea Party they helped create. Even Attorney General Mike DeWine gets it. So he is suing the top 5 drug companies for their deceptive promotions. So even if heartless Republicans understand the problem, where does that put us? Our opponents in this campaign will spend endless dollars to blur the facts and protect their profits. They will take a simple citizen proposition dictating drug price negotiation and make it scary. Too complex for this audience or for mere voting citizens to understand. If you are confused by watching television ads, then their campaign is working, because a confused voter always votes no. So never once do they tell you that they are investing maybe $90 million to keep Ohio prices and their profits high. I thank you for your kind attention. I will obey that PP.
That finger?
Thank you much.
Dale, come on up.
Got it?
Well, good evening. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here in Cincinnati and to see old friends like the great Chairman Tim Burke, and as well as new friends like your outstanding City Councilman P.G. Sittenfeld, whom I was very honored to work for last year in his campaign for the U.S. Senate. Like David, like all of you, I'm a Democrat. For more than 2 decades, I was proud to work for Democratic legends like John Glenn, Howard Metzenbaum, Sherrod Brown. Since then, I've spent a good part of my adult life in the fight for affordable prescription drugs. 15 years ago, I worked with Bill Berga and the Ohio AFL-CIO in a campaign that resulted in the creation of Ohio's Best RX discount card that is still bringing drug price relief to tens of thousands of Ohioans today. But I'm opposed to the ballot issue that we'll be voting on in November because I believe it is bad public policy that won't fix the problem or do what it promises. In fact, I believe it will only make things worse by actually raising drug costs for a majority of Ohioans and reducing access to needed medications for some of our most vulnerable citizens. And it's not just me who thinks that. Every single expert who has studied the ballot initiative, including a former state budget director and 3 former Medicaid directors who worked under both Democratic and Republican governors, have all reached the same conclusion. And so have over 60 different statewide organizations representing veterans, labor, business, and well over 30,000 Ohio doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and hospitals. In fact, every major medical organization in Ohio, including the Academy of Medicine right here in Cincinnati, has joined the No Coalition. Does anyone want to guess how many statewide organizations have joined the yes side? The answer is 0, as in none. The state Democratic Party hasn't endorsed the ballot initiative, and neither has Senator Sherrod Brown. Nor have any of the 4 announced candidates on our side for governor next year. So why should the Hamilton County Democratic Party endorse it? What do you know that Sherrod Brown, 3 former Medicaid directors, and 30,000 Ohio doctors and nurses and pharmacists don't know? Last year, a virtually identical version of this ballot issue went down by 6 points in the state of California, one of the most progressive states in the union. And that was in the same year and on the same state and the same ballot that Hillary Clinton won by 30. Maybe the problem isn't, and by the way, it was every major newspaper in the state including liberal papers like the LA Times and the San Francisco Chronicle, all editorialized against the initiative. Maybe, just maybe, there's something wrong with the ballot initiative. So in the couple of minutes I have left, I want to briefly mention the 4 biggest problems, which I hope we'll have a chance to talk about during the Q&A. The first problem, it's unworkable and it can't be implemented. I hope we'll have a chance to explain that in the Q&A. The second major problem is that 2/3 of Ohioans are left out. Remember, the ballot issue only applies to drugs that are purchased by the state government. But 7 million Ohioans, 64% of our population, don't get their drugs through state government programs. They have private insurance. Insurance may be provided by their employers. Maybe they're older Ohioans who are on Medicare, which is a federal program, not a state. So those folks aren't covered either. But those 7 million Ohioans who aren't covered could see their costs go up, and I welcome a chance to explain why in the Q&A. Third, maybe most important of all, ballot issue supporters don't seem to understand that the state already gets huge discounts and rebates on the drugs it buys. Just like the VA, which gets a 24% mandated discount, Medicaid drugs, which comprise 75% of all the drugs Ohio buys, gets a 23% mandated discount. And then the state, just like the VA, negotiates voluntary additional discounts and rebates. The bottom line, as all of the Ohio's former Medicaid directors have pointed out, is that the state is already paying close to the VA price for the vast majority of the drugs we buy. Fourth and finally, there's something called paragraph G in the ballot initiative, which I urge you to take the time to read. And I'm going to have to stop here, but I just want to say that I'm only asking this party to be where Sherrod Brown is, where the Ohio Democratic Party is. In other words, I'm asking for neutrality, at least until you've had a chance to study this further and understand what is in this thing.
Thank you. Questions? Jenny,
I want to know what paragraph G is about.
Do you want to tell them or shall I?
Go ahead.
Paragraph G gives the 4 named sponsors of the ballot initiative an unprecedented right to intervene in any legal challenges that may be filed against this initiative if it passes and becomes law, and requires the taxpayers to pay their legal fees. We've had a law firm look into this. That is a first in Ohio history. Never had anything like that in any law we've ever had in this state before.
Who are they?
The second question was?
Who are
Who are they?
Who are those 4?
Well, anytime you go up against pharmaceutical industry with such deep pockets, the idea that they could tie up legislation or sue our organization or anyone else and that need to be protected is obvious. So I'll entertain any other question. Yes.
Who are they? I just asked, who are the 4 sponsors?
Well, the 4 sponsors are individual Ohio citizens.
Yeah, David forgot to tell you something though. 3 out of the 4 work for a man named David Weinstein, who is the California activist, controversial activist, who is the proponent of this and is paying all the bills, just like he did in California. He's extremely litigious. He's got 52 lawsuits against government entities around the country, including 3 right here in Ohio. And let me just say, David, that with respect to why that is in there, remember, if a law in the state of Ohio is ever challenged in court by our Constitution, the Attorney General of the state defends the lawsuit, and he would under this legislation. But your 4 sponsors would get to hire their own attorneys to presumably sit side by side with the Attorney General, and we cover their legal fees.
other questions?
Does the no side have anything better to offer? Do you have anything better to propose?
Yeah.
I mean, this is one chance to go against Big Pharma.
So the question, for those of you who couldn't hear it, is what is the alternative? People a whole lot smarter than I am have been working on this for a very long time. So I'm not ashamed to tell you I don't have the answer, but here's what I know for sure. Whatever the answer is will not be on the ballot this fall in Ohio.
Will it ever be?
What will be on the ballot this fall is a very specific, initiative that will do very specific things, that will raise, not lower drug costs, will reduce, not increase access to drugs. So all I'm telling you is, if you want to send a message to the drug companies, you don't want to pass something that's going to increase your costs and reduce your access, because that's a very expensive message to send.
Well, I would suggest that it's incredibly expensive to spend, for the drug companies, to spend $80 million at least in the state of Ohio to convince you to vote against your self-interest. The idea that public officials all across the state, including our own mayor of Cincinnati, John Cranley, his opponent, Yvette Simpson, multiple other individuals on city council, several elected officials who are here today, like Wendell, like Wayne Coates, and others have all endorsed this proposal. And frankly, we have a Democratic team statewide that brought Obama to victory, the team that brought SB 5 to defeat. And we're proud of those people. They do not work for drug companies. The idea that we're going to wait around for some magic bullet to come down the line and change what is an untenable status quo is ridiculous. And anyone who thinks that drug cost can be reined in by giving drug companies free rein and allowing them to dictate prices in the state of Ohio and refusing our ability to negotiate. We negotiate for everything. We negotiate with the postal folks here for this room tonight. That's negotiation. Labor folks here understand negotiation. We paid them for it.
No, we begged them for
Begged them. That's negotiating. But my point is that we should be allowed to negotiate. And as I said, the National Democratic Party went on record yesterday as saying they want to negotiate with pharmaceuticals to bring down cost in the Medicare program federally. That is new Democratic policy.
Lynn.
My concern and my question is with the item about the Ohioans who are privately insured, have employer coverage, or are on Medicare. I mean, this does nothing to lower our drug costs, right? And it could increase our drug costs.
So
it's this affects only a small portion.
Every taxpayer. It affects every taxpayer.
Well, it sounds like from this that it could affect me negatively. So how would it affect, how could it affect me personally? Because at the moment I fall into one of those categories and will soon fall into another. So how would this affect me negatively?
Yeah. So let me answer that, but first I want to comment on something David just said, because I can't let it go. David said, all we're asking for under this thing is a chance to negotiate. As I've tried to explain, Ohio already negotiates with the drug companies. We get a mandated discount for 75% of the drugs we purchase that is virtually identical to the VA, and in addition to that, we negotiate tens of millions of dollars of additional. What this ballot initiative does, doesn't ask for negotiation, it sets an artificial price cap. There's a big difference between negotiation and a price cap, right? And as for with respect to the question of how this is going to increase people's drug costs, first of all, remember, no ballot initiative in Ohio, the only thing a ballot initiative can do is limit what the state pays. It can't require a manufacturer of anything to sell to Ohio at that price, right? If you mandate, if you could even figure out what the lowest price the VA pays, which you can't for a variety of reasons, which I'll be happy to answer if anybody would like to know, but we can't know what the lowest price is paid by the VA. But even if you could, and you could somehow require the drug companies to sell at that price, it's like any other business. If they're required to sell at a lower price to a certain group of people, what are they going to do? They're going to raise the price on people who aren't covered by that to make up the difference. So that's the problem we have there. With respect to the state, the reason this is not going to save any money Every Medicaid director has pointed this out. If you mandate this, the drug companies have no incentive to negotiate these voluntary additional discounts. If those go away, that's going to increase Ohio's costs by tens of millions of dollars. This bogus claim they have about a $400 million savings has been outed by a former state budget director. I think if you read the Dispatch editorial that's been put at your places there, it's an editorial in the state's largest paper last Sunday. It's bogus. There is no $400 million savings because we're already paying close to what the VA pays for most of the drugs we buy.
Let me ask both of you, because there's a bunch of hands with a lot of questions. Please let's try and keep answers tight so the folks who have questions have the opportunity to ask them. I know it's a complicated issue, but if everybody tries to go too long, we're going to be here a long time tonight. Natalie.
I have an easy question, and only because I looked at the table back there. I appreciate both of you being here and all the information you brought, but the one thing that is not back there is a copy of the proposed legislation. And I mean, I tried to do my research, but David, man, you just jumped right in as if we all know what's going on. So what I gather just by a quick search of Google is that this is legislation that will allow Ohio, notwithstanding some other stuff, to negotiate drug prices for certain things.
Correct.
Is that about it in a nutshell?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, no, it's actually not. It's actually not. What it says is the state of Ohio cannot pay more than the lowest price paid by the VA. It doesn't talk about negotiation.
And that's in there too?
That's what it says.
Okay.
It's not. There is no negotiation.
Maybe you could all provide us
The entire ballot language is on file with the Secretary of State. Big Pharma fought us in the ballot board. They took us to the Supreme Court. They failed both times. A Republican Supreme Court approved the ballot language, and we're moving forward on that. And the idea that a solution is going to come from the same individuals who have raised costs extravagantly over, particularly during the past decade, is frivolous.
Look, I'm not a yes or no. We are all here to be like, to spread the news,
You
right?
could go to
Either
ballot.
way,
You could go to Ballotpedia, and they will have all the
Right, but it's
text
easier to
right
spread
there.
that for us to do our job and to have you.
Go this way. You first and Rob, then
Ballotpedia.
Just as one preliminary word of context, I love Dave Little, I also love Dale Butler. Big Pharma is no friend of mine, I've never taken a cent from them, nor would I. And I don't want to get too far from the substance, but this has been gnawing at me. A couple of the people on the yes side, one of them was the guy who was, I guess, the spokesperson and a great defender of Todd Aiken, the person who talks about legitimate rape, a little bit farther afield. Another person who I think is at the very top of the structure on the yes side is Matt Borges, who, for those who doesn't sound familiar, former chair of the Ohio Republican Party, one of the people that was merciless trying to destroy one of our own people, Micah Cameras. And maybe that shouldn't be related to the substance, but it's given me pause and trouble that people who, I feel very uncomfortable with are part of putting this forward to us.
PG, if you take a look, you will find individuals from both parties, every sector, working on both sides.
Well, just to simplify, what's Borges doing?
Actually, he's quite an expert strategist, as the record has shown. As far as me getting to know him, I think they've got a lot to offer to this campaign, and I'm sure that the Republican strategists working on the other side were also offering their unique perspective from being so successful in Ohio for a multitude of years.
Mayor.
I can read. I learned how to read a long time ago. I am not going to vote for anything that I have not read just because you two guys or 4 more guys come up here and say, yeah, do it, no, don't do it. Fair enough. She asked a very good question. If you want to give us something valuable, tell us where we can go and read it. Don't come here and ask me to vote yes or no, or endorse or not endorse. I don't do anything without reading.
It is available at the Secretary of State's website.
Well,
It is available from me. It is available from Ballotpedia that has the entire language.
Well, that's all you really need to
The other place that you can get it, if you go to our website, which is deceptiverxissue.org, and you click under news, there's a resources page. You can read all those studies I was telling you about from the Medicaid directors, and in there you will find the text of the ballot initiative. So you can read the text for yourself there as well.
Wow. I have two questions, one for each side. One, for the Big Pharma is against this. No, why would they be against it? It's going to raise the price. Wouldn't that make them more money? So that doesn't, from an intuitive point of view, but I have a question for you today. So from intuitive, I'm trying to ask, why would they be against something that would help them make more money? To your side, David, is there, if we're allowed to negotiate, is it limited to, is there only a certain amount of people that can benefit from, a certain amount of businesses that can actually benefit from that? Because I think that is the part that people are kind of getting.
Every Ohio taxpayer would benefit. You don't have to be receiving you don't have to be receiving benefits from the state of Ohio for the savings to the state to trickle down to all of us. So I personally won't qualify, but
no, I just want to clarify.
4 million other people would.
Let me clarify really quickly. I'm talking about the people that are there in that paragraph G. Are they somehow, they get some type of business benefit that others can't compete for? That's my question.
No.
Well, the first thing I would say is beware of anyone who tells you that benefits are going to trickle down. We've heard that line a lot in the past. You asked the first question, I believe, was why would the pharmaceutical companies be opposing this? And by the way, let me also just say right up front, and we don't hide it at all, we say it right on our website. We have an FAQ page, which I hope you'll look at. I think virtually every question you have will be asked and answered there. The drug companies, it is true, are paying for most of the campaign on this side. And here's why. We have a coalition of 60, as I mentioned, 60 organizations. As much as the doctors and the nurses and the pharmacists and these other groups, the veterans, as much as they oppose this, they don't have the kind of money lying around in their organizational checkbooks that this is going to cost. Last year in California, Mr. Weinstein, who is also paying the bill this year, spent $20 million in California, and doctors and nurses in Ohio don't have that kind of money in their organizational checkbook. So if the drug companies were not paying the freight on this, I'm not sure who could or would. So I hope that answers your question.
Dan, and before you ask the question, let me just point out, this is our Democratic candidate for Delhi Township trustee. Thank you.
I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps. So this, I think we're getting confused here. So this bill would set the prices to the VA prices. What stops them from that?
Well, it's federal law that was passed under George Bush Sr. in 1992 that prohibits that.
So the VA, you're saying the VA cannot change their prices, or they can't raise
Well,
prices?
you know, the odd that we keep talking about prices going up. The only individuals in this situation who could actually raise prices are the same people that are funding this campaign of disinformation. So they stand to make money either way. If it goes down in defeat, or they could simply say that, look what you made me do, I'm going to raise prices on you.
So my question then would be, it's not that I don't think there's a problem, because I think everyone in this room agrees there's a problem, but does this fix it? Because they can just raise prices. So even though we have an issue, we're trying to fix it, but are we? If they can just raise VA, then it ruins veterans care too. And that's even bad as it is.
Obviously, the intention is most certainly not to harm any veteran anywhere. That is a deception that has been utilized in this campaign and will be disproven.
Right, but what stops? My question is, I don't think it's meant to harm veterans, but what stops it from that potential?
The answer to your question is nothing. There is no law that says pharma can't raise prices. What it says is there has to be a 24% discount, but it doesn't say what the price has to be. Even more broadly, the VA discount was enacted by Congress in honor of veterans' service and sacrifice. It was never intended to be extended to everybody, even though, as I mentioned, under Medicaid, there is a 23% discount, but the 24% was intended for veterans. Every veterans organization in this state, every one has come out opposed to this, has joined our coalition because it's going to raise your costs. And the VA itself says that. When this was on the ballot last year in California, there was an issue brief that was done by the VA that said what would happen to the VA if this thing passed in California. And you can read it on our website for yourself. What the VA said was it would increase the VA drug costs by $3.8 billion a year. For the same reason it would increase Ohio's costs, because those voluntary discounts would go away. So it would hurt veterans. That's why veterans are opposed.
Okay, we're going to do 2 more questions. I hope we can get away with just that. Eleanor and then Harriet.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is this: in Europe, as you were saying, pointing out before, the system of the drug price is much lower than what we pay here.
Yes.
So why don't we try? How they manage to make this system? Because that is seeming that it's really working. That we already know that so what they do in Europe, and I come from Europe, that make that negotiation that with big pharma that works, and then maybe we could try to see why don't we get into an initiative that we know that in other part of the world has been successful.
Well, you are absolutely correct. We pay 3 or 4 times what they pay in France and England. We pay 3 times what they pay in Canada.
How do we do it?
Because they are allowed to negotiate with drug companies. We do not have that privilege here, and as a result, this is why this is being fought so hard. And the idea that we spend $20 million in California and we will spend some here as well, Big Pharma spent at least $111 million in California. So the idea that they're being picked upon in this case is pure silly. But we hope to get those same prices that they get in Europe. And frankly, in the third world, they're getting prices that no American has ever dreamed of. That C. diff, for instance, is a case in point.
So let me say for the third, and I hope the last time, we do negotiate. The VA negotiates. The state of Ohio negotiates. There's only one federal agency that is prohibited by law from negotiating, and that is Medicare. The other parts of the government do negotiate. The VA negotiates. Not only do they get the 24%, they get additional discounts on top of that because they negotiate. With respect to Europe, this is my own personal feeling. There's no question we have a problem in this country with drug costs. I'm not going to, everybody agrees that Ohioans deserve access to affordable prescription drugs. What I'm telling you is, this is my own personal feeling, the drug cost problem is part of a much larger problem we have with health care generally in this country. We have a national problem, it needs a national solution. You can't do it piecemeal, state by state, or you wind up with things like this that are just going to make matters worse.
Harriet.
I want to know why this has come to Ohio. It failed in California.
Yes.
Why are we so fortunate as to have this issue on the ballot in Ohio? Who's really wanting the game?
Okay, I'll tell you. It is sponsored by the National AIDS Healthcare Foundation, the largest AIDS healthcare group in the world. They have 750,000 patients. They work in 36 different countries, 15 different states, and Ohio is one of them. They have facilities where the way this started, when people were dying of AIDS and drug companies had exorbitant rates so that people continued to die, this gentleman and others banded together to buy that cocktail to save lives. It started 30 years ago, and as a result, they have been successful. They have operations in Ohio, and they also believe that Ohio is a microcosm, a perfect purple state that could stand to benefit by a program where we're allowed to negotiate for the benefit of all taxpayers.
Let me say with regard to Mr. Weinstein, I think there are some other reasons that he came to Ohio. Ohio is one of the few states, or not the few states, there's maybe a third of the states that allow ballot initiatives. and it's relatively easy to get on the ballot here in Ohio compared to other places. But with regard to Mr. Weinstein, and I don't want to demonize him because he's done some good work with AIDS, but the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, understand, is $1 billion a year nonprofit that makes 80% of its money selling prescription drugs. Okay? Mr. Weinstein has a history of taking tens of millions, in fact hundreds of millions of dollars out of this foundation, which he runs completely. He has appointed the board. He can do what he wishes. I'll give you an example. Earlier this year in California, in March, they were going to put a high-rise building up that would block his view of the Hollywood sign. He got mad. He put a ballot initiative on the ballot in Los Angeles, which would have halted residential housing construction in the city of Los Angeles for 2 years. It went down 70-30, but he spent $5 million pushing it and doing ads for it, and he made the city and the county spend a lot of money to defeat it. That's what he does. He puts ballot initiatives on. My own feeling is I don't think he's in this for the money. I think that it's ideological with him. I think he enjoys poking his finger in the eye of whoever the boogeyman of the moment happens to be. If it's the Los Angeles County government, if it's the drug companies, if it's the business community, it doesn't matter. If you go to our website, you can see a whole history on Mr. Weinstein. Again, it's deceptiverxissue.org.
If I can say one thing on why we're running this ballot measure here, I'm so upset. 1 minute. Like, Ohio has been hit so hard by the opioid crisis that was built by, in no small part, by the marketing that pharmaceutical companies undertook in the state. So when we look at where is a state that is suffering from the actions of pharmaceutical companies, it's here. And it's not just in drug pricing, it's also in the actions they've taken. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay.
But
made the point.
And let me just say, not one word in this initiative deals with the opioid problem. Not one word. We do have a crisis, and it's real. But this ballot initiative would not fix the opioid problem.
We have very trained spokespeople on both sides. We could be at a Q&A for a very long time. What I'd like to see is what the will of the body is. We can take a motion, we can defer the matter, it's up to you.
I would like to make a motion. Is everybody agreeable to that? Do you want to try to decide what? Okay, to show our party's support for stopping Big Pharma from continuous price gouging and to reduce the price of drugs for all Ohio government agencies, and to allow taxpayer money to be redistributed in a good way instead of going to the pharmaceutical companies, I move that the HCDP Executive Committee officially endorse the Ohio Drug Price Relief Act.
No.
There is a motion. If there is a second, we will debate it. If there is a second, we will debate that. Let me offer an observation. If the majority of the body prefers to defer, then I would suggest that this motion be tabled. It's up to you.
Mr. Chairman, I
Let
move that we
Harriet-
table this motion until our next meeting.
And I second that table.
All right. A motion has been made to table the issue. Is there discussion on the motion to table?
Can we vote? We need to vote at the same time. Yeah. Yeah. We have
Those
two
in
motions.
favor of tabling the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is tabled. We've not taken a position on either side at this point. It doesn't mean that we might not in the future, but for the moment, we have no position on this issue, and we'll move on with the agenda. No. Thank you, both of you. Appreciate your time. Okay, ask your question.
But I don't know who the committee is. I don't think I was educated enough to make a vote either way on either one of the emotions. And I need to know who those people are So if they're meeting, if they're texting, whatever they're doing to keep us abreast of what's going on so that we can make educated decisions, that we can read the bill and then send questions to them. I just want to know who the committee is.
Okay, which committee are you asking about?
Both of those.
The committee on the issue?
Yes, is that someone from here? You know, there's a committee. I didn't understand.
Well,
what that
David Little
Right.
is a member of our executive committee. He is working with the proponents and is capable of being contacted off of our executive committee list. Leo DeCruz is another member of our executive committee who is working on the no side of issue 2 and can be contacted by email off of our executive committee list. Does that give you the information you were looking for? Okay.
Thank you, Marjorie.
All right. We will move on then with the agenda. When, in addition to being the first vice chair of the Hamilton County Democratic Party and Springfield Township trustee, Gwen McFarland is also now, fortunately because we have a Democratic-controlled Hamilton County Commission, and we've just been joined, I think, by Commissioner Denise Driehaus, who helped Gwen, among other things, is the chair of the Hamilton County Tax Levy Review Committee, and we just wanted to bring you up to date on that. Gwen.
Denise, would you step up here with me, please? First of all, as Denise's Honorable Denise Driehaus is approaching the podium, I just want to thank Denise and Todd Fortune for really reevaluating that committee and making the decision that the committee should reflect the diversity of our community. It should not be one that just focuses on one issue but looks at the broad scope. So, Denise, do you want to say something?
Yes, I want to thank you. I want to thank Gwen and all the other members of the committee. The committee is 9 people. Todd and I, as promised, were very intentional about replacing some of those individuals, keeping some that had some experience, and making it a more diverse group of individuals that will have a more diverse perspective. So Gwen, thankfully, was one of the ones that stayed. She chaired the committee, and then we had others in the room were on the committee. So I want to thank the committee for its work. It is grueling work, is it not?
Yes.
They put in a lot of time. They toured facilities. They went to many public hearings, and so they have offered recommendations to the commission. We have our last public hearing on Thursday. We've already had the hearing about indigent care. The next one's about senior services and mental health. It's at the Board of Elections, which is a pretty swanky place. I don't know if you've been there, but it's a whole lot nicer than what we've been. But anyway, it's very nice. They're generous to let us use it. Anyway, the last public hearing is Thursday, and we will make a recommendation by August 2nd. And so that's where we are in the process. And I just, again, want to reiterate my heartfelt thanks to those that were willing to serve on this committee.
Jen, Jen O'Donnell is another member of the Tax Levy Review Committee. Do you just want to let folks know what 3 levies we expect to be on the ballot in November? Those issues will all come back to this body for an endorsement, probably at our next meeting.
As Jenny is coming forward, as Honorable Driehaus indicated, as a chairperson, we had multiple meetings, not only with those organizations that were involved as far as the health and hospitals, but also many communities. And we had many early morning meetings and late night meetings as well. And one of the things that we did was sort of synthesize all of this data based on the recommendations from the management group, consultant group, as well as the individual organizations that presented to us, and we came out with 3 recommendations. Now, these are recommendations that are not finalized. There's no way anyone would ask you to endorse anything tonight because we're still in the process of looking at those recommendations, okay? So what I'm going to do is start first with the indigent care recommendations, and I'm going to do a cliff note on it. so that everyone, that you just kind of get a sense of where we are. And then I'm going to ask Jenny O'Donnell to give a cliff note on the senior services levy. So we have 3 levies that's going to be on the ballot: the indigent care levy, the senior services levy, and the mental health levy. So on the indigent care levy, Jeanette Hargreaves, she is our chairperson, and then there was another individual, Robert Furr, and myself on the indigent care levy. On the mental health levy, Janaea Trotter was the chairperson, and she served with Pastor Hilton and trying to think who did, Mark Quarry. And then on the mental health levy, on the senior services levy, Dr. Herzig, and many of you all may know that Dr. Herzig's son is Aaron, and he's been a really, really advocate also in the community. Oh, and his wife is sitting in the back row. Raise up your hand. Thank you. Give her a hand, everyone, because she fed us. We had a committee meeting in their home, and they fed us, and then we went into the discussions about where we're going from there. So with the indigent care levy, and this was part of my brief synopsis that I presented to the commissioners at that time, with the mental health levy, they had asked, and Janaea did a fantastic job of really evaluating and looking at where they were as far as the mental health levy was concerned. And they decided as an organization, the mental health system, that they wanted the levy to stay flat with a renewal rate at the current rate of 2.99 mils. So it will be flat, it will not raise your taxes, okay? So then with the health and hospitalization or indigent care levy, we recommended that the levy terms be continued and returned to 5 years. And that was basically because every 3 years it gets really challenging to keep trying, and expensive to keep trying to put levies on the ballot. And the indigent care levy, as I said, is going to be on the ballot this year. And then we made some recommendations regarding the sheriff inmate health care contract and the inmate health care staffing. And then we looked at, made recommendations for the Hamilton County Public Health Bloodborne Infectious Disease Program, that it should be funded at $150,000 per year. And the Hamilton County Public Health Oral Health Dental Coordinator should be funded at $72,000 per year. And the in-care home services would be funded at $750,000, which with the recommendation, we also recommended an inflationary increase, which is about 10%, which is what we were only allowed to do as part of the committee and also by the rules of the Hamilton County Commissioners. So please see me after the meeting if you have any questions. And I'd like to now turn it over, and I want to just thank everyone. And again, please, if you're interested in any of these, the commissioners have just been really phenomenal. When we met with them, they didn't try to tie our hands. They just said, you do what you feel is best based on your expertise in this area. So I'd like Jenny now to talk about the senior services levy. Thank you.
Bill Tumler once told me that when you think about tax levies, you can't think about just the people receiving the services. You have to think about the people who are paying the property tax bills. And when they put me on the senior services levy, you talk about a rock and a hard place. Because the previous county commissioners have not raised the amount of money for senior services for over 10 years. We're serving less and less and less of our senior population, and I think it's appalling. That said, what we need is a better solution for funding this particular program, this program that keeps seniors in their homes as long as possible. The Tax Levy Review Committee voted to keep that levy at a fixed rate. And that went against everything I believe, except for one thing. We need a better solution. So when we applaud when tax levies are kept the same, ask yourself, are the services kept the same? Because in the senior services levy, absolutely they're not kept the same. The amount of people served has gone to about this much. That said though, we as taxpayers can't afford to fund that whole project. And there is not a single major donor in the region who is supporting this particular program. The taxpayers are paying for it 100%. We need to come up with a better solution. And the Senior Services Subcommittee of the Tax Levy Review Committee said, please come up with a better solution. For right now, keep this at a fixed rate, but please come up with a better solution. That's what he said.
We will be coming back to the committee with those 3 levies once they are finalized by the Hamilton County Commission. We're going to try and move through the rest of the agenda fairly quickly, but we do have some important things to cover, so please bear with us. I think you all recognize what a tremendous success we had here in Hamilton County, at least, in 2018 as a result of the coordinated campaign. We're doing that same thing, I'm sorry, 2016. There are lots of reasons why I am retiring. We are attempting now to do a coordinated campaign here in 2017. All 9 of our Democratic endorsed candidates for Cincinnati City Council, all 4 of our Democratic endorsed candidates for the Board of Education, all 5 of our Democratic endorsed candidates for municipal court have all committed to contributing money into that coordinated campaign effort. And as a result of that, we've hired Sarah Sterner, who many of you have worked with before. I want to introduce you to her and give her a chance to say hello. Sarah, come on.
Thanks, Tim. I'm happy to be here in front of so many familiar faces. I won't take up too much of your time. For those of you who don't know who I am or have not met yet, my name is Sarah Sterner, and grew up in Springfield Township and College Hill and Clifton. Went to Walnut Hills, and my first campaign was volunteering for Mayor Mallory's campaign in 2005 when I was in high school. But I'm so excited. The first campaign I worked on was as an organizer for Obama's re-election campaign in 2012. When I worked with many of you out of the Forest Park office. Since then, I've been a little bit of a campaign nomad, but came back to Ohio last year to work on Hillary Clinton's election, both for the primary and then for the general election. I'm excited to be here. Like Tim said, we had a lot of success here in Hamilton County, and there's a lot more work to be done, so I'm excited to be part of that process and to be back home doing it. And I just wanted to thank Tim and Caleb, Ann, Christy, Janaea, and Sarah. I just kind of got on board here a couple weeks ago, and they've been very helpful in getting me set up. I'm currently meeting with all of the candidates. We had our first coordinated campaign meeting last week, which I think was a great success. We're looking forward to helping out the municipal judicial races, the school board, city council, and then any other outlying suburban Democratic candidates. So looking forward to talking to anyone who has further questions about that. I'll be here. A couple of things that we're continuing to work on are creating a slate card for the Democratic candidates, endorsed Democratic candidates here. We're going to be looking into doing some paid media and digital advertising and other mail pieces as well. So again, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here because there is no such thing as an off-year election, and because there's a lot of momentum that we need to continue to build upon from all the work that we did here in the past. So happy to talk to everyone and be here.
We have a number of our 2017 endorsed candidates here. Would you please stand up? Councilmember Wendell Young, Dan Brown from Delhi Township, Councilmember P.G. Sittenfeld, Mike Moraski for the Board of Education, and Tamaya Donard for Cincinnati City Council. Tamaya's running a great race, having been trained well by P.G. There you go. We'll take that.
It's my practice.
That's right.
The next item on the agenda is, oh, wait a minute. Priscilla, you wanted to comment
Thank
on...
you. I just want to make a brief comment. As a precinct executive in Ward 6, on behalf of Ward 6 and with the concurrence of my ward chair, Mike Morosky, I'm very happy to offer our participation with the coordinated campaign. We have already had one meet and greet. We have a booth once a month on Main Street where we register voters and change addresses and give out pamphlets and all that kind of stuff. Second Sunday on Main, if you want to come to see us. I want to encourage all of the ward chairs who are here to meet with their precinct executives to get a plan going, to get some momentum going so that people in the community know that we're active when we're out there and we're getting going. We have even joined with Ward 10, which is our north neighbor. Sean, do you want to add to what I've got to say? We're trying to build the momentum in downtown.
Trying to keep an event every neighborhood. I don't care if you live in Springfield Township or over the Rhine. You have a bar, you have a church, you have somewhere to have a meeting. Whether that's beer or lemonade, cookies or whatever, cake. Please do something. We're getting people out, we're registering people to vote, changing their addresses when they move downtown or from Northern Kentucky. Any little thing helps. We even met the only Republican who lives in all of the basin. Last second Sunday.
And at this point, every neighborhood has so many events. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit anymore, right? And we just set up out there, you get people registered, meet folks. Priscilla and Sean have been awesome. And joined with Ward 10. When Sean jumped on board, that really, really helped.
And if you guys need anything, Priscilla and I can, we're going to help you guys.
Yeah.
Very good. Terrific job. Alex Linzer is co-chairing our 2018 Advisory Committee. This is not an endorsement committee. He's co-chairing it with Gwen McFarland. The idea of this is to put together a group of campaign experts who are available simply to talk with and advise the ton of candidates that are already out there working, many of whom are first-time candidates, looking at 2018 races. Alex?
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, Democrats. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have a sneaking suspicion that 2018 could be a pretty big year for us. If you're paying attention to the guys in Washington, we've seen what happens when Republicans get elected. They can't get anything done. But let's contrast that to Hamilton County, where this past year we elected Aftab Pureval and Denise Treehouse. And now we've seen in the last month, Aftab has made sure that everybody in his office gets a living wage and paid family leave. Denise Treehouse has created the county's first commission on women and girls to fight for pay equity. Because Democrats get things done, and I want to elect more Democrats. So, as Tim said, we have kind of assembled a team of campaign professionals and former candidates, current office holders, who will serve as mentors to 2018 candidates. We are not a nominating committee. We are not going to take any sides in primaries. We are simply here as a resource to help any Democrat who wants to run for office in 2018. And if you'll permit me, I want to read the list because I'm really proud of this group. Myself and Gwen McFarland will be the co-chairs. We have Sarah Toppy, Jens Sutmuller, Bridget Kelly, Tamaya Denard, Jared Camrus, Adam Miller, Janiyah Trotter, Jenny O'Donnell, and Leo DeCruz. So, as I put it, we have assembled the Avengers of Hamilton County Democratic Party. So, we have two asks for this committee. The first one is as simple. You all know people who are out there thinking about running in 2018. Even if they haven't decided whether or not they will run or what office they want to run for, send them to us. We're here to help you. Number two, there will be a meeting on September 16th, it's a Saturday, 9 a.m., for any interested candidate in a 2018 race. The meeting will be at Manley Burke, and our committee will present to the candidates how we can help them and how we plan to make sure that they are in as strong a place as possible come November 2018.
September what?
September 16th, 9 a.m. at Manley Burke.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And speaking of 2018, you already know that we have Connie Pillage working very hard to be our candidate for governor in 2018. I am absolutely delighted to tell you we now also have a candidate running for state treasurer in 2018. Where? Oh, start to move. Rob Richardson.
I move a lot, so. No, I want to thank Tim for allowing me to speak tonight, and I will be very brief as it's already been a very long meeting. You know, I thought I was going to be a recovering politician at this point and planned on sitting out for a while and observing, but you know, this is really a defining moment for our state and for our country, and Ohio is really going to be at the center of determining what happens in 2020. So, for a lot of reasons. One, there is, as I said, this is a test of our moral character of who we are as a nation and as a state. Right now, as we speak, the Senate is debating on whether they're going to take away health care from people. Literally, that's what they're going to do. That's what they're planning to do. So forget all this craziness, and there's a lot of craziness that's going on. Pay attention to what's really going on. They are really doing everything they can to take away health care for many, to get tax cuts for a few. That is what they're doing. And we have to make sure people understand that. I don't know if they're actually going to pass it, but they are determined to do it. I'm going to counter a little bit of what Alex says. Republicans, when they get in office, sometimes they really do force things to get done. It's not good things, but they focus, and they focus hard to really satisfy their base. Look, we have to make sure we are clear on what we're fighting for. And so we're going to do that this time around. I had a moment to spend in Belmont County. I'm learning new parts of the state that I've never been to, but I'm going everywhere. And this is the county that Barack Obama won in 2008, barely lost in 2012, and Clinton didn't even come close. So we have to compete everywhere, and we have to talk to voters everywhere, and I will do that. But I'm going to need your support. We're going to need your support. It's going to be, 2018 will be our year, but it's going to be a battle. Republicans are going to have a lot of money. They have more name ID, but we have the people and we have the good ideas. But we need to make sure we get out there and people understand what we stand for. I will continue to fight, and I hope you will stand with me. God bless you, and let's go and take it back to 2018.
Caleb has recommendations for Central Committee appointments.
There should be copies on your tables. We have 4 recommendations for precinct executive appointments, 3 of them from Ward 1, recommended by the Ward Chair Eleanor Fusco, and 1 in Sycamore Township. We'd ask for your support for those. I'll point out one of these is Tom Hodges, who's been very active in our Judicial Committee. And the other is the young guy, another is a young guy named Ryan Linneman, who I've seen a lot of in our office because he's been in picking up petitions and dropping off petitions on the gerrymandering effort. He must have turned in at least 10 or 15 petitions all by himself. So he's a pretty impressive young guy.
Is there a motion to approve these 4 individuals as precinct executives? So motion made, seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Do we have anybody here to talk about the judicial fundraiser? We'll skip it then. I will tell you there is a judicial fundraiser in the works. I know that Aaron Herzig has already begun doing what he's done the last couple of years, and that's contacting all of the major law firms in Cincinnati, and that has really helped us the last few years by doing exactly the same thing that the Republican Party has done, getting a lot of money out of the big law firms, and we're doing that now too, as a result of a very active judicial committee. Caleb, can you do a quick report on the anti-gerrymandering ballot issue?
Sure. I'm sure most of you are at least someone familiar with the gerrymandering petition. If you haven't signed it, Michelle Fisher here has a copy, and please be sure to sign before you leave. When this was initially announced back at the, I guess it was the end of May, beginning of June, the goal initially was to try and get on the 2017 ballot. I always thought that was a little over optimistic, but there was a huge effort around the state to try and accomplish that. And we got a memorandum from State Chair David Pepper the other day summarizing where we stand. And in that 6 weeks period, over 100,000 signatures were collected in the state of Ohio. And as it turns out, Hamilton County did better than every other county with the exception of Franklin County. So we had the second highest total in the county. Their table showed us at 13,000. I counted actually more like 15,500 signatures that have come through our office. Some of them haven't made it to Columbus yet. So that leaves us both here and on a statewide level, roughly about a third of the way to where we really need to be. So they've made the decision, of course, to go for the 2018 ballot, which means we do have some time now to finish collecting these signatures to get it on that ballot. Arguably, at least in my mind, the 2018 ballot was better anyway because turnout will be much higher. And if there's a year where we want to motivate Democrats to get to the polls and vote for Sheriff Brown and vote for a governor, that works for us too. So I would urge people to continue to circulate petitions. We have them in our office, and we're going to be working on that through the rest of the summer. Their goal now is to try and maybe get this done by the beginning or possibly the end of September. We do want to get to the point where we can submit the petitions, because the longer we sit on them, the more the validity rate starts to deteriorate as people move and so forth. So we do need to get this done. There's every reason to think we can get it done. And trying to change the gerrymandering system in Ohio is clearly a very important thing to do. Thanks.
And thank you all that has put us in a position of being the second biggest collector of signatures of any county in the state. That's awesome. The next item, before going to the next item on the agenda, Priscilla has reminded me that the judicial fundraiser is on August 21st at Hearth Lounge on 4th Street from 5 to 7. And details on that will be coming out in email blasts and be available at Democratic headquarters. And certainly all of you who are Democratic lawyers or no Democratic lawyers will be specifically contacted about this. Let's go to the Treasurer's report, and then we can talk briefly about the fall fundraiser. Steve.
How's it going? My apologies for being late this evening. There's 3 other things going on. So good news. When I started hearing about these reports 2 years ago, we were hearing numbers that were under $10,000. I'm happy to report tonight that our total cash on hand is just shy of $48,000. Woo! That being said, if someone wants to write me a check for $200 right now, that puts us at 48 total. Just saying.
Look at that.
Take it off. So this is probably one of the best financial situations we've been in a very long time. I also want to point out that, and thank you to Caleb for pulling these numbers, 37% of our revenue thus far this year has come from the Dream Promise campaign, which is our monthly giving campaign. Absolutely. A big thank you especially to Jeff Cramerding and Jared Cameras who helped put that campaign together. A big thank you to all of you out there who have put together events at your homes, events at your clubs. For those of you who have not had us out to one of your Democratic clubs, out to one of your ward meetings, please let us know. We're happy to come out and talk about the Dream Promise, talk about why it's important to invest in our party and what we plan to do with that money outside of paying very capable Sarah Sterner over there. Also want to point out that we do have about 9% of our total revenue coming in smaller donations. These are gifts under, is it $10 a month? Under 50 for sure, but just judging by the receipts, it's looking somewhere definitely under 20 a month. As I pointed out at the last meeting, our Cory Booker event, which took place in the spring, was officially the 3rd best event this party has ever hosted. Yay! Very good stuff. spill the beans about the fall fundraiser?
Yes, you can.
All right, fall fundraiser, mark your calendar, September 22nd. I believe we are still working on the location, but we have a very special guest host. I'm allowed to say it right? All right, just making sure. John Favreau will be our keynote speaker. He's the host of a very, very great podcast, Pod Save America. You might have also seen him in Iron Man, just as an editorial note. So this should be a really great event. It should be very entertaining. Again, we would love the support of everybody in this room in helping to not only get the word out, get people there, get sponsors there. Our friends in labor, of course, have always been very nice to this event. So we look forward to seeing you September 22nd. More information coming at you in your email and via phone.
John Favreau, by the way, for those of you who don't recognize the name, first made a national name for himself as President Obama's chief speechwriter. That might help remind you who he is. Some of you might know his Cincinnati connection, which helped get him here. He is married to Judge Tim Black's daughter. The first time we've ever had a federal judge help us get a speaker for a Democratic party. Don't tell the Judicial Committee. A couple of other quick points. The 22nd Annual Executive Committee Cookout will take place on August 14th. You should have all gotten an invitation
Not
to
on
that.
August 14th and 22nd?
August 14th is the 22nd Annual Fundraiser.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to have two.
One is plenty. I hope you can all come. The one thing I do ask is that you either email me to let me know if you are coming and how many people you are bringing with you, or if you don't want to wait to email it, I'll leave a list up here. You can sign up tonight. That way we know how many to plan for. And my final comment is, I do want you all to consider whether this is the last or the second last executive committee cookout that I host at my house. That's going to be up to you, but I want people talking about who's going to take my place and how soon. Because I'm serious about retiring either with the next election of the county chair, or after the November 2018 elections. Are there other announcements that need to be made tonight?
I'd like to remind people that if you're signing petitions for the school board, you can only sign 4. If you sign 5, your name's being thrown off all over.
Good point. I don't know if you could hear that. You can only sign for 4 separate candidates for the Cincinnati Board of Education. And that may be a challenge this year because it looks like there could be a dozen candidates for school board, and there could be as many as 30 or 40 candidates for Cincinnati City Council.
And there you can only sign 9.
And there you can only sign 9. AFTAB's announcement.
Yes, so excited to be here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvette. So excited to be here. So energized, inspired Democrats. I want to give a shout out to Sarah Sterner. I had the pleasure of working with her during the 2016 presidential cycle. And so, as Sarah alluded to, there's so much energy here in Hamilton County. We have to keep it going. And so that also means we still need to raise money and keep our elected officials in office. So AFTAB, we would like to invite you to his first annual summer barbecue on August the 23rd at 6 o'clock p.m. It's at 748 Victoria Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio. The tickets are available at voteaftab.com. So we hope to see you there. Let's win in 2018 and let's keep winning beyond that.
Other announcements? Yeah.
Hi, Monica Lira, Amberley. We're having an ice cream social August 20th. That's a Sunday, I believe, and we're probably not going to be watching the eclipse. But the times are. Is it Monday? Okay, the 19th then.
21st.
The 21st.
21st.
No, but the ice cream social is on Sunday.
It's on Sunday.
I'm going to the eclipse.
You're going to the eclipse. Oh, okay, sorry. So it's 20th. The times are about, I believe, 5:30, runs to 8. They have music, they have food. We invite all candidates who are running to come by and say hello and mix and mingle and join us. in our fun time, our one fun time.
Where?
Where at Amberley? At the Amberley Village Administration Center, the firehouse, police station, where the flags are, by the field. Thank you.
First of all, I got to stop by Monica and everyone's event today at Blue Gibbon, and if you haven't been to the Cincy Dems Blue Plate special lunch, it was really, really impressive. I had to leave early, but there were like 45 people when I left. And the same thing at nighttime in College Hill is pretty cool. They're doing it. So if you want to go meet a bunch of Dems that are doing stuff that want to know more, go hang out with this awesome table over here. That is definitely the cool table tonight. My name is Mike Morosky. I'm on the Cincinnati Public School Board. Thank you all for your endorsement. Those of you who voted to endorse, I will make you proud. I promise you that. I'm working really hard, knocking on doors and fundraising, doing everything that I need to do to win. I want to give you two events that will be super fun next Friday, August 4th at 6 p.m. A bunch of my community friends in Westwood and the Price Hills are having a West Side Likes Mike fundraiser. My friend Buddy Fristo of Fristo Catering is doing the food. It'll be a lot of fun. Everyone's invited, 6 p.m. West Side Brewing. And August 15th, Greg Lamson and I are having a co-event at Urban Artifact, a back-to-school party. That's hosted by a bunch of really great folks. And is going to have a mortar graduate, Sweet Meats Barbecue, just opened up their first brick and mortar store. It's going to be providing food. So food and breweries, vote Morosky for school board. August 4th at 6 p.m., August 15th, 5:30 p.m.
Yes, ma'am. Bonnie.
Big things happening on the east side this weekend. It's Anderson Days, and candidates 2017 is mostly local stuff, and you guys are welcome to stop by. We love you and all. Love you, Mike. I like Mike, even though I live in Anderson. But invite you to stop by, and it's a great, it's very well attended. A lot of Mount Washington as well as Anderson residents stop in. We have a booth, and stop by and say hi. But we would love for you to hang out and meet people and shake hands and all that kind of stuff. And it's a safe place to register Democratic voters. In Anderson once a year. Otherwise, I'm not registering you if you're going to vote for Republicans.
And Bonnie, you've got a candidate for Anderson Township trustee?
I do, yes. Mara Tiscavich, who a lot of you may recognize that name, ran for Congress, who's running for Anderson trustee, so super excited about that. So, and he's going to stop by at Tim's Cookout, so if you come to Tim's Cookout, you can see Mara.
Every Wednesday, our campaign is hosting wine and postcards. It's been a really big success for us. This is a good one because there are some people who aren't comfortable knocking on doors, and two, people who just don't. It's hot, and some people aren't physically able to canvass when we canvass. So it's really cool. We basically not to give all of our strategy away, but we can't get some buildings we can't get into too, and then some nursing homes. So we target and we write postcards based on the messages that we're seeing on those doors. So the cards are coordinated, but we just get together. We provide food and some really good wine, if I do say so myself, and some good snacks, including some homemade snacks from my mom, who works second shift. She can't be there, so she makes food in her place, which we love. So if you aren't doing anything, our offices in Walnut Hills, in the Cable House, we do it every Wednesday from 6 to 7:30. So if you want to help out an amazing, very kind, first-time candidate, and you don't know how, this is a great way to do so. So every Wednesday, 6 to 7:30 at the Cable House in our office. And if you want information, just go to our Facebook page, which is Tamaya for Cincinnati, or talk to me, or TamayaDenard.com.
Liz.
I move that everybody here come to our next Greater Cincinnati Dems Luncheon.
Yes.
Okay, every Tuesday. We just had our second largest gathering. We had Representative Reese come and talk. It was very stirring, of course, as she always is. Had 55 people there. So you guys got to come and join us. We have a great time. Also, I'm really excited about August 21st, Monday evening. We are going to, at the Red Rose Pizzeria in College Hill, we are going to have Dean Gillespie, who is an exoneree of the Ohio Innocence Project, come and talk to us. It's going to be a fascinating evening, so I hope you all can join us.
Very good. When?
We're going to have a continuation with the North Central Dems of this discussion that we had this evening regarding the drug pricing issue. So both David and Leo will be at that meeting, so it's going to be a really lively meeting, and it's going to be held at 7 p.m. at the Senior Services Building at 9156 Winton Road. So everybody in this room, if you didn't get an opportunity to ask questions or didn't get the answer, or it gives you time to do some research so that you can come to that meeting with some really good questions as we've already heard thus far tonight. Thank you.
Bruce.
I move that every Democrat come to Powell Fest.
I will get you
registered. Cincinnati Women's Political Caucus is once again hosting its annual picnic celebrating women's suffrage. This year it's on August 27th, and we're celebrating the 97th anniversary of women having the right to vote. It will be at Drake Park, one of our wonderful parks. It will be from 1 to 4, and we will provide basic food and cake. Cincinnati Now will be providing soft drinks and water, and we invite everyone to attend. It is free. Thank you.
Caleb's got a reminder.
Drake Park.
I forgot to mention in talking about petitions that I do have some here if somebody wants to take one this evening. These are the gerrymandered petitions, yes.
Chandra? Any other announcements? Last chance. Motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you all for being here tonight. I know it was a long meeting. Appreciate it.
Yay!